And the river is flowing, a river of hope, a river of optimism. It was pointed out to me that since Thanksgiving was just 2 days ago, that I keep referencing Thanksgiving. I want to know how come we don't just expand Thanksgiving and make it a Thanksgiving 3 days, like Hanukkah. We should have like the Hanukkah Thanksgiving, where we kind of spread it out a little while, give it a couple of days. I mean, because you know what? Being thankful is actually the way in which you galvanize yourself so that your gratitude actually attracts you to a different view of things. It's so sad in America, the land of such prosperity and such freedom. You could be looking at the threat of what's there, but my dear friend, I want you to consider, go back before COVID. Go back to the days when you could travel and not have to wear a mask and not worry about being forced to take a vaccine and losing your job. There were people that weren't happy and thankful then. They were all upset about the election. At some point, you have to stop and enjoy the freedom and the blessing you've got right now and not compare it to what you don't have. And this is where America becomes like a spoiled child, if you don't mind me saying so. Instead of being thankful for what we've got, we become discontented and critical because of what we don't have. And that's you know, like my parents would say, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about. And every now and then I think God says, you guys want to know what it's like to have a little, like we have all third world problems. No, first world problems here.
Yeah.
Like somebody said that to me once. That's a real first world problem, Lance. I was complaining about something. I couldn't get the right.
Probably American Airlines.
Yeah, something like that. And it was like, you know, but, you know, it goes someplace where they don't have any security, where they have nothing but lawlessness all the time. And you appreciate the fact that these are incidents in the news. They're not actually happening in your driveway right now. So you have to kind of look at Kenosha to see what's happening in Wisconsin, because it's not happening right now in your own suburb. So you don't want to make the whole world what you're looking at. This is a mental strength you have to have.
Yeah.
But now some good news, because there's a silver lining. Tell me about Candace Owens. We got some heroes here, like Candace. What does she do?
Well, yeah, so you brought it up before we took the break, but there was a police officer who donated, I think it was like $25 to Kyle Rittenhouse's legal fund, which we won't even get to right now, because in that same Tucker clip, he also made a lot of comments about Lynn Wood and money being raised for Kyle that didn't actually get sent to Kyle, and then he was left in jail. There's a whole other segment where that was going on. But all that to say, this police officer donated $25 to Kyle Rittenhouse Fund, and he lost his job over that. And I think he's now suing as well. He'd like his job back now that the verdict has been rendered. But the silver lining, to your point, is that Candace Owens raised over $200,000 for this cop who lost his job. So.
Lieutenant William Kelly of Virginia. That's the police officer. For $25 lost his job. What kind of screwball America is this, where a police officer can't go help out a kid during a trial? By the way, you brought something up I wasn't going to say, but I'm going to say it now. You know, I am one of those that was listening to Lynn Wood because he kind of came out during the election recount, and he said, you know, he was speaking my Christianese language about how he really prayed and the Lord gave him peace, that Donald Trump's going to be back in office and he's going to win this. And I remember Buck Sexton was saying, I was really upset until I heard you, and it really gave me a lot of hope. And I think a lot of Americans felt that way. Then I started reading some weird post he was doing. Now, I don't want to get a whole bunch of hate mail from you people, but, you know, listen, he writes this crazy stuff. Mike Pence should be, you know, shot for being a pedophile. You talk about, I don't know why slander and defamation, why can't go in reverse, why Pence can't sue him.
Absolutely.
Because he just was throwing crazy stuff out there, which fell right into the hyper part of our family tribe of, you know, our crazy people who believe every conspiracy. And so when I found out that Kyle Rittenhouse had Wood and another guy as his initial defense, and that they had raised like $1 million, and listen to what they did. They let him go to jail, where it was like September. He didn't get out till November, and he had to switch lawyers because none of that money was going to help him. None of the money was going to him. He had no running water, and he didn't want the guards to to I guess to beat on him. So he was trying to just exist in that jail, but no running water. So for like over a month, he wasn't able to bathe, he wasn't able to wash, and he was apologizing to people, his attorney and such, when they were with him because he stunk so bad that when he finally took a shower, his skin was flaking and bleeding on his body because he had like over a month without water.
Wow.
And these guys raised money and none of that, and did not advocate for him. And in fact, you could say it's a measure of incompetence that he ended up spending a month in jail.
Well, Kyle alleges that they did this on purpose. I mean, I had the quote here. It said, I mean, back in September, he said, I believe sometime in September 5th, I want to say, they had over $1 million and bail was set and able to be posted in September. So they could have had me sign the waiver for extradition and had me back in Wisconsin, but I could have been bailed out by mid-September. But they wanted to keep me in jail until November 20th, he added. That's messed up.
Because they're raising money off of his plight, and the money's going to them. And we're all getting smarter. Listen, we're all getting smarter. People that go after our money because they're going to do something with the election, they're going to get Trump back in, and people support, and they don't realize this is it's a scam artist opportunity out there.
Well, one could say too, Lance, that this idea, there's a lot of people who will say, oh, well, God let us lose the election so that we could see how terrible the swamp is, and we could see how terrible the whole infrastructure is. Well, there's a point to be made here too that there's some people on our side where there's really spinning some conspiracy theory webs out there that I really hope people are waking up to. Like you're saying, they're con artists. There are people out there looking to make $1 and willing to harm people to do that. So hopefully on our side, we're also waking up to all the conspiracy theories out there.
Well, yeah, and and of course the people will get mad over this, but the reality is, I said back in January, because I had written 2 books about Trump, and I've written about the importance of him being elected and what would happen if he wasn't. And so what we've got now is we've got the consequences of what would happen if he wasn't. And I really think that God is real, and that God is bringing America to a realization that it is literally hanging in the balance of history, and that if you want to sustain the freedom and the blessing of what God has given, you're going to have to return to the God that gave it. And that this means that this relegating of faith to something that you can just kick down the street, shut down churches, silence Christians, that's ultimately where this totalitarian intolerance is going to go. And I believe that God is saying, hey, the handwriting's on the wall, America. And I think that that's why I'm encouraged by what we're doing here, what we're doing with the War Room, what we're doing with our programs, because we're mobilizing the spiritual and reforming political movements that can move America back into a place where it can survive. But while we're on the subject of January 6th, while we're on the subject of the so-called insurrection, the reason why our people, our tribes, tend to go in this radical conspiracy mode is because there is a conspiracy of evil in government against us. And so there's a lot of hyper suspicion out there. Let's see, we got January 6th panel subpoenas, Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and leaders. Well, okay, good. Now, I would like to see them follow through on this and demand from Christopher Wray a full expose of to what degree were FBI agents embedded in these organizations, to what degree were they involved, and so that they knew in advance either what was going to be happening, or to what degree were they involved in stimulating the so-called uprising, because you have like over 1 million people, I believe, were up there in Washington, and you probably had like maybe a couple of thousand that looked to me like they were being mobilized radicals. Remember this, I took a screenshot of President Trump's speech at 1:11 he ended, because I remember I thought it was curious, it was 1:11. And meanwhile, by 1:11, a group of these other people who were not there to hear the president and march up the boulevard, they were already engaging police at the barricades. I want to know who they were. I know there were some bad actors there. I want to know to what degree were they stirred up to be bad actors by undercover agents working with our government who were intent on creating an incident that would render the whole discussion of the electors and Mike Pence's decision. Remember, it was right as Ted Cruz is speaking. This was a disruption. That's why it's such folly and blatant stupidity for the Democrats to think that Donald Trump was planning on interrupting the argument for kicking this electoral vote back to the states to give them time, because we had certain state legislators that were actually then saying, we have anomalies and uncertainties. We have problems now with the legitimate certification of what's taken place. This is why you had to go back to Arizona. This is why I don't understand why Fulton County is stalled when it's so blatantly corrupt that it's just begging for an investigation. But you see, all that collapsed because I believe the left was shrewd enough to see that if they could create an incident, they could shut down the argument over the legitimacy of the presidency being in doubt. And Pence went ahead and sealed it. But what's worse yet is to take guys like Bannon and Kevin McCarthy, not Kevin McCarthy, Mark Meadows and Roger Stone, and to say, we want to find out to what degree were they behind coordinating, when they already got the FBI report that there was no coordination. As Darren Beatty pointed out in Revolver.news, he said, hey, man, isn't it interesting that the FBI, the moment that the heat gets on the FBI about their involvement, they come to the conclusion there was no conspiracy and coordination going on. Nope, no coordination. Close the books, because we need to open the books and find out whether there was coordination going on with the intelligence services.
Very few people know that my buddy Mike Lindell built his business literally while sleeping in the basement of his sisters. He has a couple of sisters. He was just kind of couch surfing from house to house. He built this incredible business. And early on, remember, Mike's a fairly young Christian, actually. But when he first got saved after coming out of drugs, he would wear this cross. And the producers, like the QVC commercial, they said, "Hey, you got to get rid of the cross." He said, "No, I'm not getting rid of the cross." He had warfare over that cross. This guy was marked like Donald Trump from the beginning to be able to do something significant. Now, he built this incredible company, and you know about that. But I'm serious about this. Mike's products on his MyPillow site are phenomenal. And the one that I love the most is the soft, therapeutic, cushiony, warm, yet firm suede, imitation suede and solid boot bottom slippers he's got. You can wear these indoors, you can wear these outdoors, and it's my personal favorite because when I put my foot into them, it's like a little slice of heaven. You could sleep with the pillow, but you could walk with a pillow, and I would prefer to walk with the pillow. You want to go to this site right now. This is mypillow.com. And here we go. It's www, like you didn't know that, .mypillow.com. But when you check out, you got to use the promo code Lance, because I told Mike I'm going to keep him in business with the slipper sales. You can get, these are the low ones, the low ride in the back, but you can get the high ones. I've got both. I've got a pair for home and a pair for the office, mypillow.com. But don't forget, use the code, because you're going to get like 40, 50% off of his stuff, all of it, with Lance. And this is the deal that Mike and I have. And I love this guy because he's a patriot. He's not ashamed of Jesus. And his products just make me feel like I'm walking on a cloud.